Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now.
So Chris, you're really into mobile, aren't you?
Yep.
In what capacity?
Well, I work for IDEA, which is a digital marketing agency. And in that capacity, I sit on the strategy team where I cover mobile and social as far as the strategy. And when I say that, I mean looking at the consumer behavior and looking at how consumers are using mobile.
You're doing this for IDEA, which is a sister company of Modus?
Sister company of Modus. And we do a lot of joint deals together. So there's a lot of, clients I work with together. So it's a really mutually beneficial relationship that we have.
Specifically with, IT, what kind of devices do they have to worry about these days?
Not just the mobile phones, but also iPads and tablet devices that a lot of salesmen as well as their clients are having to work with and try and access their systems with, especially while on the go or in front of a client. It's embarrassing to be in a client meeting and trying to access an internal system and not be able to from your iPad or mobile phone device. So making sure that CIOs as well as the IT decision makers are thinking mobile first, if not mobile second.
So even the IT professional has to worry about these,
Even
traditionally consumer grade electronics.
Exactly. When it comes to integrating those, with current systems and making sure that, even the consumers at a certain point, they're going to have to touch, some of those back-end systems in order to get products, in order to get service, in order to get support. So making sure that everything is integrated is going to touch IT at some point.
So I'm curious to know that some people have said that these things, this happens to be an iPad, my iPad I purchased with my own money for, my own company's needs, they're a fad. Is mobile going away? I mean, is this just, this like flash in the pan? This is just going to be gone tomorrow.
I seriously doubt it. Signs are pointing to no, especially if you look at it from a global lens. So there are countries that are having to leapfrog over landlines and jump straight into mobile. So when you look at Africa and developing, countries where there's no way for them to lay the foundation and the infrastructure of having landlines. So you see a lot of consumers in those spaces as well as employees that are jumping from no phone to a cell phone and no landline phone at all. So making sure that, especially if you have a global footprint for your organization, making sure that your systems are optimized for those remote users who only have mobile access to your information, to your systems.
I would say that this mobile phone is pretty much my primary computing experience, sometimes even at home, where I've got, desktop machines and I can deal with here. Everything happens on the phone. Is it going, I mean, again, from a consumer point of view, my business happens, I'm kind of a weird little entrepreneur guy, but is the same thing happening within organizations where employees are finding themselves more on smartphones, their own smartphones, and trying to do business there versus the devices that the IT department grants them and says, no, you can only use this device?
So even the data is showing that over 90% of cell phone usage or mobile phone usage is for work and not for pleasure. Most people think that you're playing games on your phone and you're not working, but most employees are accessing email. They're accessing files, they're working on files in some occasions. So making sure that employees are thought of in that regard, not as just when they go home, they are totally disconnected and they're, fiddling with their phone and playing with games and talking to friends and texting. Yes, they're doing that too, but in addition to work, all on the same device. And so as a manager or as a CIO, or even just as some sort of decision maker within a company, you have to be mindful of the fact that employees are going to, if they're not already, are going to become increasingly more engaged via their mobile device, even during work hours.
We're kind of dancing around the idea of social. I mean, social's certainly got a place in mobile, doesn't it?
If more and more consumers and or employees and or clients, however you want to paint the picture, are accessing social networks from mobile devices, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, wherever the network is, we as marketers have to understand that sometimes our content needs to be digestible from a mobile device, not just from desktop.
Mobile's here, social's here, and curiosity, which do you think is a bigger challenge for corporations these days, mobile or social?
If you look at the C-suite, they are on mobile devices already. A lot of the C-suite are using iPads and phones, so they understand the need for mobile a little bit better than they do social. Social is harder because they have the time issue. I don't have the time to be on Facebook. My employees shouldn't be on Facebook because it's a waste of time. My time, time is money, that thing. So you're starting to see a lot of pushback on social initiatives within organizations rather than mobile initiatives.
How can you, or how would you convince them that this is really important?
I would look at some of what is being done currently by other organizations that are leading in the social space, especially when it just comes to employee engagement, when it comes to consumer engagement as well as client engagement. I'm looking at some of those examples of how those organizations are using social as a way to drive the business and not necessarily as a way to waste time or just spend more money or just be there just to be there. But what are they actually getting out of that? And not necessarily just financial rewards, but also, intangibles, the brand equity that they're, adding to the bottom line, or as far as the balance sheet goes, the goodwill of the brand. When it comes to recruiting, talent.
Coming back to HR, there's full circle
right.
for you, yeah.
When I can get those organizations that are using social as a way to recruit talent. And then, unfortunately, HR, that's where social media stops as far as talent goes. So recruiting is what everybody's talking about in social and HR. It's like recruiting, set up Twitter accounts and post job links and, get everybody to, send them to their friends, which is great, and that works, and it's proven. But where can we take it to where now that they've come into the organization, how can we retain them?
Mobile isn't just for Angry Birds, and
right.
That's pretty much, for some reason, somehow, over the past year, this has become the killer app. Yeah. Like, everything I see, it's got to have Angry Birds. I don't get it. But it's beyond just games.
Right.
It's beyond just fun, even when you're dealing with your connections, because you're dealing with colleagues, coworkers, people who are in the same industry through social means and mechanisms. It's not going away anytime soon.
I think as an organization or as a consultant even, making sure that if you're not using social, that you somehow set up a brand, experience, a presence on social so that, if you're brought on to a job or are looking for a new opportunity, that your thought leadership is out there, that you have a blog. If you do presentations, that your presentations are up on SlideShare. Making sure your LinkedIn profile is fully filled out.
If I were to enter the traditional workforce and work in enterprise directly for a company, it would be very difficult for me to shift from the mentality of I'm just going to get to it, however I'm going to get to it, right, to no, you, and I understand security concerns too, and I don't think we can dive into that today. Mm-hmm. But being chained to one way of doing it right here, that's the only place. I would feel chained.
Fortunately, a lot of organizations are still in that mindset or haven't embraced mobile and social to a standpoint where it's it's considered a priority.
We'll get them there.
Yeah,
we'll get them there, or we'll become Angry Birds ourselves.